The system failing a victim is not new information to any of us. Let's be serious, right? Far too many victims fall into this category, and their stories end up with tragic endings because a system that was supposed to be designed to protect them ends up doing anything but. This is the tragic story of Zahra Abrahimzadeh, a beautiful mother who was failed terribly by the system along with her children. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It is so greatly appreciated. Truly, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. And lastly, there's a trigger warning here because this video heavily discusses topics of DV. So if you think that you can't handle something like that, I highly, highly suggest that you click off and go watch another video of mine. But if you decide to stay, let's just start. So, 44-year-old Zahra was Iranian. Her husband, Zialo, was a lawyer in Afghanistan. The couple were married for 30 years and they had three beautiful children together, Atina, Anita, and Arman. They would move to Adelaide, Australia in September of 1997, 13 years before everything happens. Adelaide is the capital city of Australia, and it is described as simply enchanting. It's said to be a treasure trove of shopping, fine arts, and outdoor activities. It's known for its world-famous wine regions, restaurants, bars, nightlife, and beaches. Zahra was described as a beautiful person, a very strong mom, and a loving mother who sacrificed so much for her children. The outside world, her husband Zia was a good man, a hardworking man, a wonderful husband, and a great father. He was very well respected by the Afghan and Persian communities in Adelaide. But at home, Zia was a much different person. He was controlling, he was ABUSC, and for as long as the children can remember, they feared him, especially Zahra. Okay, so it's only right that I tell you that this upcoming part is not the easiest to listen to. Zia was verbally and physically abusive to his wife and children. He threw Zahra against a window, threw her to the ground, and stomped on her. When Arman was 12 and Anita was 2, Zia kicked Zahra repeatedly while she was laying on the ground, then refused to get her medical attention. Dragged her by the hair down the hallway, shoved her through a window, and left her bleeding profusely. Then he forced her to clean up all the blood from the floors and furniture. He snapped a telephone cord against Atina's throat and scalded her fingers to stop her from biting her nails. Atina tells a story about a time that her father caught her talking to a boy on the phone. This enraged him so much that he began yelling at her, hitting her, and prohibiting her from leaving the house alone. When she was 17 years old, he caught her talking to another boy on the phone. He hit Atina with a belt repeatedly and left her with cuts and bruises on her back and shoulders, threatening to unalive her and telling her that he would rather end up in prison than have her ruin his reputation. Well, the good news is that he has ruined his own reputation in front of millions of people. Anita, who was working at a hair salon at the time, was hurt so badly the following day that she couldn't even stand up to take care of her clients. Two of her co-workers found out what had happened and they took her to go talk to a social worker. Anita did tell the social worker what was going on, but she refused to show her any cuts or bruises because, as a mandated reporter, the social worker would have been obligated to report this. Anita was also not allowed to go out with friends, especially boys, and she was forced to spend her weekends at home. Armand, on the other hand, was treated way different because he was the son. To be fair, and this is probably the only time that I'll say to be fair in regards to this horrible human being, um, this is common in a lot of cultures, I have to say. My grandparents are all Italian. Their parents are off the boat Italians. And my uncle was allowed to do a million times more things than my mother would ever be allowed to do. And to be honest, she kind of still holds a grudge about it to this day. She does. Armand was not only allowed to go out with friends, but he was also allowed to have female friends, which again, that doesn't surprise me at all. In 2007, the family discovers that Zia is cheating on Zahra with a woman who has 4 children. When Zahra confronted him, Zia denied the affair, but he never broke it off with the mistress. In fact, he became even more aggressive towards Zahra while he was dating this woman. Their children told Zahra for years that he didn't deserve her. He didn't. She was too good for him. She was. And they begged her to leave him. Zahra never did, though, out of fear of not being able to survive on her own. Then one day in February of 2009, everything changed. An argument between Zia and Zahra escalated and escalated and escalated until it was a full-blown explosion. Armand, who was much older at this point, actually stood up to his father and protected his mom. But this infuriated Zia so much that he turned around and he took off towards the kitchen. He was headed towards the drawer that the family kept the knives in. Luckily, Armand was able to wrestle his father away from the drawer before he was able to grab any knife. And then the 2 children got on top of him. When Zia finally got up, he cornered the kids and told them that they can't watch him 24/7 and that when they least expect it, he was going to lock them all in the house and set the house ablaze. A couple days later, Armand spoke to a counselor at his school who advised him that he needed to seek immediate help and sent him to CDVS, the Central DV Service. At the end of the day, Zahra was a mama bear, and this threat was enough for her to say, I'm out. Because now it's not just about her. He's threatening to get rid of the kids. Within a week of the incident, while Zia was at work, Zahra packed a very small bag and they all left. They took very few possessions with them, to which Armand explains by saying that safety was their primary concern, and when you're running for your life, you literally run for your life. Fair. Because of the youngest sister, who was 11 at the time, and custody issues with taking her away, the family was actually forced to stay in South Australia, which sucks. After they left the house that day, they headed towards the police station and they each gave statements. But while they're waiting for the paperwork to be processed, the family would end up having to sleep in their car for a little while. Till finally, CDVS was able to find them a safe house and a case manager who was there to provide help and guidance and emotional support to Zahra, who didn't have a job and didn't speak the language. I gotta give it to her. How freaking scary. That's scary. This didn't stop Zia from finding them, stalking them, and forcing the family to move homes at least twice a year. During his visitation with their youngest daughter, Zia would often send messages to Zahra through Anita. Messages such as that he's going to unalive her for leaving him. He's sending these messages through their 11-year-old. That's just cold. Because I don't know if the 11-year-old even truly comprehended everything at this point. She's still really young. After Zahra left, she slowly began to rebuild her life. She started going out, she got a part-time job, and she enrolled herself in classes to learn the English language. For the 13 months that Zahra and her children were in hiding, Zia was never spoken to by police, and he was never arrested for anything that he did, including the night in February. When the hearing to contest the restraining order was going on, Zia was able, through his lawyer and some loophole, allowed to attend the Persian New Year, knowing full well that Zahra would be in attendance. Okay, for context, Nowruz is a holiday that marks the Persian New Year and the first day of spring. It's a 13-day festival that symbolizes renewal and harmony in nature. It begins at the exact moment of the Northern Hemisphere's vernal equinox, which is typically between March 19th and March 22nd. It sounds so like peaceful and serene, doesn't it? Just sounds like such a peaceful time in everybody's life. In 2010, it began on March 22nd, which was also Zahra's 44th birthday, and the night that she and her oldest daughter would be celebrating at the Adelaide Convention Center along with 300 other guests. One of those guests in attendance that evening was Zia, and he was seated right behind Zahra and his oldest daughter, brandishing a knife. Yes, Zahra saw him. Yes, she was scared shitless. But she also believed that she was safer being around 300 people as opposed to leaving the event with her daughter, whom Zia had also threatened multiple times. To be honest, I would have thought that was my safest bet as well. But I would have been wrong, and Zahra was also very, very wrong. During the event, Zia jumped up and he 8 times in the torso, neck, and chest, right in front of all 300 onlookers, and only stopped when he was restrained by guests at the party. Atina calls her brother and tells him to rush over to the convention center while Zia sat there very calmly, drink in hand, as if nothing ever happened. When Arman arrived at the center, he saw his mother laying there lifeless in a pool of her own blood. She was taken to the hospital, but she didn't make it. She actually passed very shortly after the attack began. It was also her son that was tasked with identifying his mother's body at the hospital. He talks about how the ventilator was still attached to her mouth and how, it gives me the chills. It gives me the chills. And how blood was seeping through the white sheet that was covering her. God, how horrible for those kids. At trial, the couple's children testified against their father. The judge was actually outraged by Zia's lack of remorse and called his actions premeditated and deliberate. He's on point like a sniper with that one, let's be real. He was also taken back by the fact that before Zia changed his plea to guilty, he was ready to have his children cross-examined and made to look like liars. Not that I think that would have worked anyway, because I don't, but because the evidence just, hello. But it's incredibly appalling that he would stoop to that level after he just took away their mom. I also wrote a 10-page letter to the court. But it should come as no surprise that he did not write this letter to apologize for his actions or to show any genuine remorse. He wrote the letter to paint himself as the victim, saying in part, "Do you think I deserve to suffer so much punishment because I married an Iranian woman? I suffered 25 years of sarcasms, verbal abuse, belittlements, false accusations, threats, and eventually I was robbed of all the hard earnings for 35 years of work. These include being deprived from my family and children. How much do you think the body and mind of a human being can tolerate? How long can a human being live in fear and anxiety with no security? I don't know. Why don't you? Oh, ask your wife. Oh, wait, you can't because you killed her. Everything has a capacity that once exceeded results in overflow." The permanent victim. I know a few of these permanent victims. Actually, I know a few of them very, very well. And you know what? It's nothing short of pathetic. Zia was sentenced to a minimum term of 26 years in prison, which is appalling to me as well. Because not only did he take Zahra's life and ruin the lives of his 3 children, but I would probably bet a lot that he traumatized 300 others. Zahra's 2 older children were forced to grow up immediately after their mother's death because they were in their 20s and their youngest sister was only 12 at the time. So the siblings ended up becoming her primary caregiver, which to their credit, they took on no questions asked. So if nothing else, Zahra did an amazing job raising her children. She really did. Because if they really wanted to, I suppose they could have put her into foster care, but they didn't. It was never a question. So at least she did that. She raised 3 really good kids. In 2015, Zahra's children started a foundation in their mother's name. The Zahra Foundation understands how difficult it is to get out of these types of relationships, with their mission statement saying in part, "It takes a lot of courage to finally make the decision to leave your home. Therefore, when a woman takes the brave step to leave her ABUSE partner, we need to be there for her. This is what the foundation will do. It will support and empower these women and children. It will assist them in rebuilding their lives without fear." With Armand going on to say, "When someone is yelling ABUSE at you, when the furniture, windows, and crockery is smashed, when you are punched and slapped and kicked, when your eyes are swollen and bruised, and you are beaten with a belt, when your mother is assaulted so bad that she falls unconscious, that's not something to keep hidden. That's something to talk about to teachers, childcare workers, police, anyone really. And when people are told, they have a duty to follow protocols and act on that information." If you guys are still here, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you and I appreciate you so, so, so very much. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't yet and you feel so inclined to, because it really helps me out and I really, really appreciate it. And until next time, stay safe out there.